Hi everybody! Hi Tamar!
Hey,
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm here in the land of always summer.
Yes, you and I guess both, but on different continents. So until we
Yeah.
get together at the same place at the same time, we don't want to stop doing the rereading videos. So let's continue with Catelyn. We'll do it in this format until we're back together again. Are you ready?
Yeah,
Are you hyped?
this is my hype face.
I'm moved. I'm moved. Okay, so we're talking about Caitlyn's first chapter. Just to refresh your memory, this is when she goes to the Godswood. She sees Ned. She tells him two things. First of all, John Arryn, his mentor and the hand of King Robert, has died. And then that King Robert is coming. So not all of the things are actually happening in the episode, but we get two big news that are very important for the remainder of the story, right?
Yeah, well, the plot, nothing really happens in the scene, but the plot actually starts in this episode, with all the stuff that is happening in the kingdom.
Yes.
The first domino has been pushed. We know, spoilers alone, we know who pushed it.
Right. Okay, so rereading this chapter, what was the first thing that popped off that you noticed that was important in your eyes?
It's pretty obvious Caitlyn doesn't belong in the North.
Yes,
She's a total outsider.
Totally.
She, even after all these years, she doesn't really like the North, it seems.
Oh.
She thinks it's weird. Everything is weird there. The gods, the customs, the weather, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, that's the first thing. And I think George R. R. Martin really puts an emphasis on it. Like giving us the outsider view of the Norse from an insider, right after two episodes in which we were exposed by two big protagonists that are Northerners. So that's a nice touch. I like it.
Right. It was very interesting, because since we are still in the North, we get the sense that this is the story is about the North, but then you have someone there whose experiences in life are so different from what she sees there in the North around her, and she doesn't feel at home with regards to anything, even towards her husband. In some way she's close, but in other ways she's a little bit estranged. They're very, very different.
Well, she never really liked the North. Not only she thinks it's weird, the way she describes, or her mind describes, like the Godswood, it's stinky, it's moist. So yeah, she's an outsider after all these years still.
Right, and I try to imagine if we got that same scene, but from Ned's point of view, he probably would not have described the Godswood in this fashion, saying that it smells of decay and that everything looks horrible. He probably would have described it in some kind of, epic way, give it a historical touch. So that's a very interesting twist very early on in the story, I think. Just to quote a few lines, she says that in the Godswood there are no beautiful redwoods, because she's from the south. Just stubborn trees, armored in needles. So the trees even are armored, and the ironwoods are as old as the realm itself. So there's also like a great sense of history that connects nature and these weird northern people. That's a theme that is ongoing throughout the chapter. Okay, so what was your take on their relationship, Caitlyn and Ned?
Well, Gil, since you asked,
Yes, please.
it looked to me they're like a little bit formal, She's calling him my lord instead of Neddy, nude, my nanny, baby, lovey,
Mr.
poots,
Star.
poots, schmutzy. She calls him my lord.
My lord.
And it's like the first thing that comes up to his mind when Ned sees Caitlyn is where are the kids? So, it's like he's a CEO and like one of his vice executive vice whatever comes into the office and is like, okay, what about the thing that you need to take care of it. I want to report on it first before you give me the news.
Right. The way
was like kind of the formality part of the relationship. We know it's not exactly like that. They have love and respect to each other.
But on the outer layer, there is formality. Like the way that I read it, it's just like a man seeing his wife, and the first thing that he does is give her a sense that maybe she did something wrong. Where are the kids? What? Just give her a little bit of guilt. Like any wife, I'm sure that what she wants from her husband is the first thing that he says to her is, where are the kids? That's very romantic, very sexy.
He also, Ned, discusses the family prospects.
Education.
In this context. Like Rickon and Bran, how did they fare? Bran performed tremendously watching a head being chopped off.
Yep.
Great work by Bran. He didn't, he stared, he saw the blood, he didn't cry.
He's very proud.
A nice initiation ceremony by him. And Rickon, well, he needs a little more toughness in him.
Why?
He's a little bit afraid of magic direwolves.
Why would he be afraid of a giant wolf?
I don't know, maybe he's a sissy.
Also, the way he referred to the Night's Watch guy getting chopped off, he said, at least he died, good, he died well. Oh, thank you for giving a grade to his death. Okay, by you just killing him even though he was running away from monsters. Come on! And he's kind of passive-aggressive also towards her. He tells her at one point when she is right, factually, he says, I should know better than to argue with a tally woman with your crib tales and stuff. No, Ned, you are wrong and she's right. Children of the forest exist. The others exist. So, come on. Whatever.
He is a good husband, though. He cares about her, he cares about her convenience. But, when we say good husband in this world, we mean basically, he's doing his job. He doesn't have to sexually satisfy her. He doesn't have to, bring her flowers or even be kind to her necessarily.
Right.
He just have to, make her feel comfortable. And he also built her a sept. We have to remember she's, that's another element of this world. It's very interesting that we're like shot into straight from the beginning, like the difference between religions.
Right.
I mean, she's from the south, so she believed in the faith, the 7 gods. And the north still have this animistic religion in which you give qualities and properties to like rivers and trees and mountains.
Right.
And they're your deities, basically. Psychologically, it's kind of different. How do you see your gods and how do you connect with your gods and
why?
Communicate with your gods? He, with a capital H, really introduced this from the beginning, which is very interesting. She's a pagan. She sees her gods. She can smell her gods. She can offer treats to her gods. She know how her gods look like. She mentioned it, like the northern gods, they're weird. There's like the trees have faces. You don't really pray to a tree.
Also, it's not that trees are gods. It's like, what are the old gods? It's not clear. Like the tree is part of it, I guess, but we don't know yet.
Not only that, the northerners share the same gods as non-humans.
Right.
The children of the forest, which nobody knows anything about them at this point, except fables and stories.
Right. So we can see the tension immediately between her religion and his religion, and also, of course, between fact and fable, and between Ned saying that they believe in the children of the forest, but then he mentions, it's a nice little touch, that Maester Lewin would tell you that the children of the forest never actually existed. So there are a lot of tensions right from the get-go between the north and the rest of the kingdom.
another thing. Even though Catelyn is an outsider, we can still see from her point of view, the justification even to make these trees in the north, the weirwood trees divine. Like she feels like they're looking at her, that they have this personality attached to them. So even she's not a believer, she's still, animates them, these trees herself, and, ascribe to them like human quality, watching, scheming,
thinking. She could have thought that her husband's religion is stupid and wrong, but she didn't. So that's a good point.
We learned that most of the trees in the south were cut down or burned.
Right.
And that gives us like a glimpse. I mean, they didn't really describe this as like a religious war, but, maybe a lot of the ancient, Catelyn's ancestors felt the same thing she felt. And they're like, they're watching us. They're not, they're weird, they're scary, so we cut them down.
Right.
So that's give you like a glimpse, maybe not necessarily a religious war, but a glimpse to the history of the place and of the kingdom, because it's kind of weird in a medieval set that as far as we know about the medieval Europe, they weren't that kind and accepting and tolerant towards other religions, in the same realm. I mean, no medieval king will allow, as far as I know, until the Reformation, will allow the part of his kingdom still hold like an ancient religion.
So the North has the same religion of an ancient enemy that they fought. That's also, problematic.
Yeah, true.
So later we get a little glimpse of the politics of this world, right? Jon Arryn, he was the hand of the king, and he raised in some way Ned, mentored and tutored Ned and King Robert. So you get the sense that there's a big political game inside this world. So there's religion and there's politics and there's a great realm and great history. So you immediately get you really want to continue reading because you immediately know that there's a large world to discover.
So this chapter continues the theme of, change is coming, winter is coming, or change is coming in the form of winter is coming. We see dire wolves. We see a lot of deserters from the wall. And Jon Arryn dies. Everything that is connected, by, strings and threads are moving pretty fast.
Right. This is maybe like the first chapter of the political story. And he also opens up a lot of stories about the great history, about the doom of Valyria, what is that, we don't know, and Bran the Builder who built the wall, all kinds of weird things that have happened thousands and years ago that are still at play in the current day. That's, I think, very compelling.
What do you thought about the writing?
There was a part about hummus in this chapter. Did you like the part about the hummus?
Yeah, I really like the part about the hummus, especially now that I'm in America and I don't enjoy the hummus as much. You can imagine.
Do you buy hummus in the grocery store?
No, I'm kidding. There's a lot of Jewish shops here and they have hummus from Israel, but it's not.
But the kind of hummus that you would not buy here in the grocery store.
No.
Yeah. So there's a line, 1,000 years of, humus. I don't know how you really, how you're supposed to, it's not really hummus, right? It's one M.
Hummus is hummus in English. They say it hummus, and this is humus, which is from Latin, which means soil, It's kind of a nice tidbit here that humus in Latin is soil or earth, and the word for man is homo, so it came from the earth, from the soil.
Ooh.
And it's kind of similar to Hebrew, which Adamah means soil or earth, and Adam means man or Adam, as it's called in the King James Bible.
And there was another line that I really liked. The weirwood bark was white as a bone, its leaves dark red, like 1,000 blood-stained hands. Does that sound like a religion of the good guys? Not really. Okay, so before we wrap up, we want to get to our favorite part of the chapter. We actually talked a lot about our favorite part of the chapter, right? Like Catelyn's ambivalence towards the North, her feeling outsider and stuff like that. So let's talk about something else in the chapter that you really like that we didn't get a chance to talk about.
I like the arc, if you can call it like that, the arc of their story, Ned and Catelyn, of the relationship. It starts with my lord, and ends with my love. So
right, and also we have mentioned like the way that Catelyn said that the Stark words are different from all the other houses' words. Like all the other houses, they're like, "Hey, I'm the best. I don't know, I got all this money, I got my hoes, I got everything," but the Starks are the only guys that are not narcissistic. Their words are about the world and about the fact that doom is coming. So that's kind of annoying, like words that always say bad things are coming. That's like when, I don't know, isn't it supposed, like the words, aren't they supposed to be like celebratory? Like, hey, hear me roar, I'm a lion. Hey, winter is coming. That's
true.
Yeah, that's true. Sad but true. Okay, so is there anything else that you want to add, Itamar?
subscribe to our channel.
Subscribe, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/GOT Academy or gotacademy.com. It will get you to the same place. So we'll do a couple of more of our rereading videos in this format, and then we'll be back together again, and we'll go back to the regular format of being at the same place at the same time, which is an incredible idea. So I'll see you next time, Itamar.
Yeah.
And we'll see you all next time too. Bye, thanks for watching.